Celebrating 9 years of podcast excellence, the King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Many of my fellow podcast wrestling brethren are going to go ahead and run on the post-show for Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor by starting off with and taking a lot of time about the former Cesaro, now returning once again, Claudio Castagnoli, finally winning his first Ring of Honor singles title. Because he had been tag team champions before. But now he gets this here, Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion. And it's, or World Champion, they always say, they never say heavyweight, but it's basically the same thing. He's now the top champion in the company. Part of the Blackpool Combat Club. And getting a spot for himself that defines the identity of this promotion. Because I feel like with Tony Khan, he's been trying to go ahead and find the best way to identify what this company is going to be and where they want things to go, or where he wants things to go in terms of how this promotion stands out from AEW. What I can definitely tell is that Tony Khan definitely was a fan of this product. That Ring of Honor embodies the spirit of what All Out was supposed to be, or All In, for AEW when they first started up. Before the promotion became AEW, became the full-formed idea, the full-formed promotion we have now. So when you have that, you're saying to yourself, okay, there's a respect factor from Tony Khan from all the stars of the past. Claudio Castagnoli was one of those names. You think of Bryan Danielson, you think of Jay Lethal, Samoa Joe, the Briscoes. There are so many different names that are encompassing here with Ring of Honor, and the tradition, the technicality, with a little bit of that humility, novelty that would come with every wrestling promotion. This is what Ring of Honor is. And you can tell in a lot of different ways how this is being done. When you look at the logo now that's definitely in place for Ring of Honor, it's a modernized version of the 2002 logo they started with. It looks really good. When you look on TV, let me tell you this now. The Supercard of Honor, they went with the original setup they had because Ring of Honor had just been sold to Tony Khan. The deal had just been closed, and he decided to go and do the event. Well, tonight, you get a venue that's very similar to AEW. You get a look that is somewhat similar to how AEW might be, but Ring of Honor definitely had a step up in production, because production looks slick and great, just like AEW does. The presentation is now fully entrenched as a Ring of Honor product that we're familiar with. You might not have Kevin Kelly or Mike Hogwood or whoever else you might have had back in the day that was announcing, but the current team that Sinclair brought together with Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman is a very good team. And Riccaboni has been worked with quite a bit now in terms of how he delivers in matches. They were very exciting, very enthusiastic, and just, it's a better job than before. And I'll tell you what, the biggest difference with Riccaboni and Coleman doing this pay-per-view tonight is because there was such a hot crowd. Not that Ring of Honor doesn't have hot crowds, but there's a difference between 900 people in the arena doing their shows, which is what Impact Wrestling normally goes with now these days. With Ring of Honor, you're getting that show at the Songa Center in Lowell, Massachusetts, in front of 3,500. And the crowd sounds like a Dynamite show. Like, it was really a good sounding, large crowd. Like, I mean, it was sold out, looks like. They definitely had a good crowd in there. And you can tell the AEW stalwarts are definitely now behind this. Ring of Honor diehard fans went to Supercard of Honor. But with the way things have been done with Dynamite, Ring of Honor now has its own standing, and AEW fans have embraced Ring of Honor. And it's not going to be the entire fan base because of the fact that Ring of Honor is much more technical. It's much more about the sport of professional wrestling, the tradition, the legacy, the reputation. There's just really that formality that Ring of Honor has always embodied, that's always been identified for them. And that's why they decided to go this route with the show. And the way they put the show together was very good. Now, they gave us 4 pre-show matches, an hour long, of some pretty good matches throughout the night, and some notable things here. Off the bat, Colt Cabana kicks off the night with a pre-show match over Anthony Henry. We get the Trustbusters, which is Daivari and Slim J, over the Shinobi Shadow Squad, which is Cheeseburger and Eli Isom, 2 Ring of Honor stalwarts that have been around before in the Sinclair days. And then the interesting thing to me was seeing the fact that Tully Blanchard Enterprises is no longer a stable now in Ring of Honor. And instead, they decided to go a completely different route with it. Because now that stable, that faction is still intact. But during the pre-show, Lexi Nair talks to Prine Nana. You know I like Prine Nana back of his days in the Embassy. The Embassy is now back, and Prine Nana is back as a regular character on Ring of Honor. I think that's wonderful. I'm actually surprised they decided to go and bring him back, but I like it. Because you have him. I mean, will they ever bring back Truth Martini? I don't know. But Truth Martini was so important and so integral into what was being done in Ring of Honor and a bunch of different storylines. And the House of Truth was such a big faction that was so important for a long time in that on those Sinclair days that you never know. But where they are here now is good. And I always enjoyed the Embassy as a point. And for those that didn't know about the Embassy and what they were representing in this faction, the story comes up from F4W Online. I'll take it from there real quick. That Prine Nana purchased Tully Blanchard Enterprises, and the faction now he has is the Ring of Honor World Champion, was Ring of Honor World Champion Jonathan Gresham, Brian Cage, and the Gates of Agony, Toa Liona, and Kaun. And that they would be going back under the Embassy name. So the Embassy was a stable back in 2004. And some of the names that ran through the ranks of the Embassy were Jimmy Rave, Alex Shelley, Abyss, Necro Butcher, Eric Stevens. I missed all those. Who I do remember he was a part of was with Tommaso Ciampa being a part of the Embassy. And as the Sicilian Psychopath. That's how I got to meet Tommaso Ciampa and how good he was. He still is today, but I really enjoyed his work in Ring of Honor. He was great in NXT. Don't get me wrong. The whole Goldie thing, yeah. But I always will say, I enjoyed the gimmick that Tommaso Ciampa had in Ring of Honor. I really liked it. That guy was just something else. PostWrestling.com actually spoke with Prine Nana a while back. And when you think about the other names that he had, Xavier was very popular. He also had Mia Yim. He also had Claudio Castagnoli as part of the group. And he had, am I right? Yes. He also had Donovan Dijakovic. Or to me, Donovan Dijak. I forgot they changed the name. Yes, Donovan Dijak in Ring of Honor. Dominic Dijakovic. And WWE then T-Bar as part of Retribution and the latest incarnation of him right now. So it's just great to see Prine Nana back. A legendary name of a faction that was actually really great. One of the better things that I really enjoyed in Ring of Honor was the Embassy. I just thought it was just really good. And I like Prine Nana on that damn hat, bro. I really like, what can I say? Good stuff on the show tonight. Just on the 0 hour pre-show that they had during the night. So that was actually really good to see that. And Willow Nightingale against Allysin Kay and a women's match, which is indicative of what the women's division is now in Ring of Honor. Because you could tell that the Ring of Honor, when Maria Kanellis came in and they started the Women of Honor tournament, we had Women of Honor beforehand, but there was something to be said about the quality of the matches they had in Ring of Honor and what they did. They did have a bunch of stars that we brought into the place, but when I look at who Ring of Honor actually had in their time as part of what they were doing, Sinclair tried to do some things with the women's division that probably didn't do so well. And that was one of the things that I always saw that was kind of intriguing when they had all that together. In the women's side of Ring of Honor, you actually did have a number of names that would eventually become significant in other organizations. When you think about Tasha Steelz was over in Ring of Honor in 2019 to 2020. You had Tennille Dashwood, who was there for a while, who's now at Impact Wrestling. You had Madison Rayne there because when she was away from Impact, she was also there. Kelly Klein, who actually was very prominent in Ring of Honor's women's division as champion. And I don't know, just dropped off the map. Carissa Rivera was there, who we now know as Elektra Lopez and part of the now the Tony D'Angelo family. Angelina Love was there, and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, as well. And then also Holodead, who works now in MLW. So it was just a hodgepodge. And then also some other stars that were brought in here that were just all over the place. And it was really just the problem is that with Ring of Honor and that women's division, it was just very much didn't have much of an identity, and they were just getting it started. So take that for what it's worth. But where you see now with Ring of Honor's women's division under Tony Khan, he definitely wants the workers. He wants the real technical. It's not about, having women that are divas. They definitely want to take the divas out of it, which in a way, that's what the Knockouts division of Impact Wrestling is. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some beautiful women in the Knockouts division of Impact Wrestling. But, when you look at Jordan Grace or Jessica Havoc or Savannah Evans, they might not be stars that would necessarily be like, models that you would look, but they're still attractive. They're still quite good wrestlers, and they give a different dynamic just across the board. But, it's the ones that you see that they're not necessarily, they're not fitness models. They're still very much attractive, and they're natural and healthy looking women. That's just that whole idea of image and perception, that you throw that out the window. You have women that can work and they're good, and it's not all about let's put you into a bikini. No, nothing like that. And you can just feel like where they have things now, AEW definitely has a division for them on the women's side that is very well rounded. They have various stars there, bringing some of the Yoshi wrestlers. They have some real standout women's talent and a lot of young women that are on this roster that are just trying to find their way up. But there are obviously some names that when you look over there, I do like the women on the division of AEW. I'm always in to watch Anna Jay or Sky Blue or Julia Hart or Dr. Britt Baker or Jamie Hayter, the Baddies and Jade Cargill. It's an amalgamation. Nyla Rose is in the mix. And then you see Chris Statlander and Athena. And Thunderstorm with Thunder Rosa, Tony Storm. There's a well diverse, rounded group there. But when it comes to Ring of Honor's women's division, I just feel like there's something where they decided to go with Mercedes Martinez as your champion after they went ahead and made the changes where Mercedes Martinez was interim champion, Deonna Purrazzo was champion, taking the belt off of Roxy, and how all that has changed in a couple of years. That Mercedes Martinez now is definitely stood out as the women's champion, which is good. I like that. So good stuff all together. But anyway, let's get into the actual show itself. Claudio Castagnoli, he, with William Regal, by the way, on commentary several times tonight, which is really fun. And 11 minutes, 30 seconds, and Castagnoli dominates Jonathan Gresham. And when you see Claudio come back into this organization, where initially seeing him come into AEW, knowing he was going to work at Ring of Honor, and the fact that just gave him a title shot kind of just told me he's getting the belt. And it's almost as a nod to Claudio that this is one of the real stalwarts that was there. He was one of the most memorable names in Ring of Honor. And for all the work that he did to never be recognized as a champion. Now, in WWE, he was tag team champions. and he's won secondary titles, but was never given the heavyweight title. You know, we remember that Cesaro did get a chance to go after Roman Reigns one-on-one, but he was just another in the long line of carcasses that were left on the wayside that they needed to find somebody to have as an opponent for Roman Reigns, and he smashed him, right? So that's what he did there. So for me, this was just a defining moment. Number one, to go ahead and give the Blackpool Combat Club another title holder to be extremely prominent in Ring of Honor, because Wheeler Yuta also holding the Ring of Honor Pure title and defending and retaining it tonight. Makes all the sense in the world. You get the 6-man tag team titles brought back into the forefront for the first time in 3 years or so, and Dalton Castle and the boys, they go ahead and take care of the righteous Vincent Bateman and Dutch, and it's because of the fact that Dalton Castle is an attraction that they really realize does not have to need a belt, and that Dalton Castle needs to continue to be a face, or can be like that in-betweener kind of heel kind of thing. But that is what's best. The Dalton Castle, Catalina Island character, and swaying away from it was not the thing that Sinclair or Ring of Honor's booking had to do at the time, which was always a mistake, I thought. And Tony Khan basically bringing Dalton Castle back to full form, to his original character that everybody loved, making him back to the guy that everybody loved, is the right thing to do. Dalton Castle's still over. Look at what that crowd did when they watched him tonight. It's still great. So it's good to see this here. And you know what? There's something to be said about when you look at the show tonight, and to me saying, man, if I could have one of the YouTube shows, whether Dark or Dark Elevation, replaced with Ring of Honor every week, I would love that. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Dark Elevation needs to serve the purpose they do right now. I think Ring of Honor should take that spot. And AEW Dark still is a standalone product. That's just my thought. Because Elevation, I guess I understand what they're doing in terms of its stars on the cusp of moving into that main roster or getting to be featured on the main roster on the Dynamite or Rampage. And that's where that weekly regular work comes in. But until Ring of Honor gets a chance to be where they are, I mean, and it would be too much work, I guess, for Ring of Honor to go and have their own show on YouTube right now anyway, because they can't devalue the product yet by putting it on YouTube. It can't be one of those shows. Tony Khan's still shopping it around. But maybe they'll get it. Maybe eventually Ring of Honor will get a place somewhere on TV. Maybe Warner Brothers Discovery will give it a spot. Maybe a streaming spot, something, so that Ring of Honor can have their place. Because the roster they have right now is very fascinating. I like who they have. And the one thing that Ring of Honor that I really was bothered by with Sinclair is that the way they would book their shows, I'll tell you what, the booking for the TV shows was just kind of all over the place. And I really didn't care. There wasn't much storytelling within the booking of those shows. So that's why I would always not worry about watching the Ring of Honor TV product every week. First of all, I was in bad places to watch the show anyway. And even if I looked for it, I wasn't really interested because of how much they taped and what they did. And it just didn't really feel like there was much of a story behind it. Impact Wrestling, they record a month or 2 months in advance. Same thing with NWA Power. But they do a better job of having a story ready to go. And even the tapings have some really prominent matches. Because Impact always has about 4 or 5 matches that are pretty significant throughout their shows. They're not throwing stuff away. They're definitely building storylines. And there's some new content that gets embedded. Well, they're doing things after the fact. You'll see some things that are being reshot in as well. It's not so much Ring of Honor. Plus, with Ring of Honor, some of the backstage stuff, whether it was Mandy Leon or Quinn McKay or whoever, it just didn't interest me. It was just kind of flat. And then also, how many times would they do like a best of show or clip reels that just were flat? I mean, just didn't want to watch them. Like that TV product weekly was really tough to watch. So I have to think that with Tony Khan, the Ring of Honor show and shopping it around again is difficult because Sinclair does such a, the Ring of Honor was owned by Sinclair. To go ahead and shop around Ring of Honor again, now we have 2 shows to work off of and say, listen, look at the kind of shows we do on pay-per-view. Look at what we give you on a weekly basis. Look at the stars you'd have on here and the storylines we could build. So he's got to sell that story out to people now and say, let's see what happens with it. But in the meantime, he's retained this product. I'm so glad he resurrected it. And after his second pay-per-view now under the Ring of Honor banner and what he's done on television with Dynamite to continue to, serve the purpose of Ring of Honor to keep it important and keep it significant has been wonderful. I think he's done a great job with that. So I really enjoyed that part. You had Willow Yuta over Daniel Garcia, 16-minute match for the Pure Rules. And I think that Tony Khan is taking the Pure Rules idea, and with Wheeler Yuta, he's got a great champion that really fits well as an opponent that everybody's going to go and take on, and Wheeler Yuta is just so damn good at the format. So damn good at the format. The Blackpool Combat Club, the whole thing with that, and Daniel Garcia be brought into the mix here was a really great match. Like, a really great match. Then you go ahead and, like, every match going on after the 6-man tag, which was good, but it wasn't like something that was like so overly significant. Then you get the brothers feuding each other with Roosh and Dragon Lee. These guys have fought each other before. You throw them in with Bandito or throw them in together in a tag. Fantastic. Wow. These guys just blew it up. Great match. Then you get Mercedes Martinez and Serena Deeb. Another great match. A lot of mat work, a lot of submission work. Good stuff. And Serena Deeb taking the loss here in a very long match. They went 17 minutes in that match. That was really great. And the way they decided to go and book where Claudio was winning the title at the start of the show, the world title match starts off the night is a very significant move, but the right move when you look at it. Because then you went with feature with a TV title with Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal. It's the marquee. The marquee, that's what makes sense. Claudio just came back in, and Jonathan Gresham, he's the Ring of Honor champion from the previous brand. He's still significant, but I think they have other plans for Jonathan Gresham anyway. So they were going to keep him as world champion here for much longer. But he's had a long reign. Nevertheless, he gets that they can't take it away from him. But Samoa Joe, Jay Lethal, this thing got hot right off the start. The crowd was all over it. And these guys, they can work it. They've worked a lot of times together. This was really great. A lot of good near falls towards this match. And Samoa Joe retains in a hell of a match. And then closing out, 43 minutes, 25 seconds to get to a 2 out of 3 falls match. Rematch. Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles only on the line. And FTR and Briscoes, another barn burner. This was just, forget about it, man. Crowd was all over it. One of the best tag team matches of the year. Really was. And I'm trying to think what other shows really have that kind of thing now anyway. And I'm just saying to myself, give me some matches where Usos have been featured here and there. And I'm just trying to think, was there any other places? But FTR, consistently, they're featured in some of the best tag team matches there are. Period. We talked about where Briscoes and FTR lit it up on Supercard of Honor. And then FTR and the Young Bucks had another massive match together. And it was just all great. Fantastic stuff here. And interesting, Jay Lethal goes into the World TV title here. It works tonight. Now he has to go work another pay-per-view next week at Ric Flair's last match in the main event, let alone. But good stuff nevertheless. FTR and the Briscoes just tore it up. You just had great match after great match after great match across the board. I give the show a flat out A grade. Overall, it was really good. They did a good job of putting it all together. So I enjoyed it. Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor, solid pay-per-view tonight. Really good stuff. I'm not going to go and go more hampering on how well the show going to put together with the format and all. It was just really good stuff overall. So good stuff. Enjoyed. I'm not going to go too long tonight because of the fact that I did a show last night, went 40 minutes to talk about the resigning of Vince McMahon, which, 40 minutes just to go ahead and talk about what this isn't more than enough. But keep in mind, too, that we have to wait on some things that will come out most likely after the story because of the ramifications of him leaving. What will happen down the line to Vince McMahon in terms of the scandal that has been brought in front of him? Is there more dirt on the way, and is that about to go and come to light? Or are we going to have to report on that? Then, who are the people within Vince's inner circle that might get excommunicated and dropped out? Kevin Dunn being the first. We have to wait and see what happens there. And are there any ultimate changes? We talked about 5-6 questions that ultimately need to be asked as Vince McMahon resigns. So we talked about that. You can listen to that show. I did it last night, WrestlingIsReal.com. By the way, I redesigned the website, so it looks a little bit better. WrestlingIsReal.com. Take a look there. By the way, if you want to make any comments, I put a contact form now on the bottom of the page. There's only one page of the website. I keep it real simple. There's a contact form right there. Any comments, questions, anything you want to go and talk about here on the show, I ask you to go ahead and please go ahead and fill out that contact form. If you want to reach out to me on the program, do that at WrestlingIsReal.com. That would be great. A couple storylines from WWE I want to go and talk about here that should be brought up. Before I do that, let's talk about AEW anyway, because of the fact that you do have a story that comes out now that I brought up things that I mentioned. I had tip again to WrestleNomics Radio for talking about this, because now the talk is about from Wade Keller and PWTorch.com. He says that he's communicated with some AEW wrestlers about Vince's retirement, and there were those that have deals expiring this year who might see Vince's departure as a positive development and might not be happy with Tony Khan's booking. Regardless of Tony Khan's booking, you're talking about the fact that he just has an overblown roster and making time and enough, space for all these different stars that he has. Sure. We said there are some names that might go ahead and make the jump back now that Vince is gone. That will be more than enough reason for them to come back. You never know. And we can speculate what names those could be, but I'm not going to do that right now. We'll just wait and find out who there might be that could get brought over. Because there are some names you can think about that could go back, and maybe some things will change. You think about some stars that Triple H might have definitely had favor for during his run at NXT that could be brought back. I don't know what the contracts are, though, so I'm not going to go ahead and speculate who there is. But we can talk about that, and we can go ahead and keep an eye on that. There's obviously going to be stories talking about that when I do the regular show on Wednesday going into Thursday. Most likely somebody will bring that up. Now, in here, they're saying that, they even, in the story here from Wade Keller, Jon Moxley would be one of the guys to keep an eye on. Or at least the story from WrestlingNews.co they made the point of. Another story coming out about Brock Lesnar, and I mentioned that after the Vince McMahon retirement. The story had come out immediately after that Brock Lesnar apparently walked out of SmackDown, but the word now is it's overblown. But F4W Online did make a point about that. Fightful Select comes back and says that one source tells them the situation was overblown, that things blew over, and Lesnar did consider leaving the show after Vince retired. But then he was convinced to go ahead and stay, and that in the script for the show for SmackDown, it was rewritten, and Lesnar was not featured in the script. But there was that last segment that was done with Theory, there was left a way open where Lesnar could be included if he returned. So PW Insider reported that Lesnar was originally scheduled to immediately leave the arena to return home after appearing in the opening segment, but instead we saw him at the end of the night. And Wrestling Observer Radio's Dave Meltzer made the point and says, I know he was back in the building by 8:30 local time as far as the timeline goes. It wasn't he was hidden away or they wanted to do this big like MJF thing where they doing the work and you showed the last second. It wasn't a big guard, a secret. He didn't show up at 9:45 and go out there at 9:50, put it that way. So that's all set there. Everything that was being talked about that, now we don't have to worry about that anymore. So there's that part that is now taken care of. The other thing that I noticed too was interesting after what was going on with SmackDown this past Friday night is everybody was asking about where's Max Dupree. Instead, we got Maxine Dupree now accompanying Mansois and Marseille. Well, the Sean Rorick, or formerly Eli Drake, formerly LA Knight, he's not fully on board with ideas for Maximum Male Models, which was a Vince McMahon creation. And that with Vince McMahon, the point was that Vince did not want him to sound like his LA Knight character. And I understand why. Because the Eli Drake character, the LA Knight character, sounds too much like The Rock or Stone Cold. It is a bit of an imitation. I understand that. And the is not enough to distinguish him as somebody different. So Max Dupree, it wasn't much about doing this. But the thought is that he's not going to be dropped at all. It's just they might bring him back on the main roster another way somehow, that he's not completely done. But the Maximum Male Models gimmick will not be his gimmick going forward, it sounds like. Okay. And even when he did the Maximum Male Model storyline as Max Dupree, I thought he did fine. So I was kind of surprised. Like I'm not surprised that he decided to change the character. And I didn't know if it was going to go ahead and fall apart. I don't think it's that bad right now. I actually enjoyed that whole thing. And Sophia Cromwell now, playing the Maxine Dupree character, I like. She's very nice on the eyes, and I even said on Twitter, I wish they could have called her Donatella Dupree. It would have just fit better. But as we know, Donatella Versace makes sense. I don't know. Just a thought in my mind. So that's it. Going to keep it at 30 minutes. Keep it simple. Keep it succinct. There's just so many shows to do. And then next week, I got to do another 3 shows. You'll have your regular Wrestling Is Real podcast going up on Wednesday, going into Thursday. Reminder, I will do a post show for SummerSlam on Saturday night, next Saturday night, 1 week from tonight. And then I will do a post show for Ric Flair's last match on Sunday night next week. You got all that to go in front of you. So there's a whole lot of recording I got to go and take care of. Good thing I actually bought a new attachment to my microphone so that I can have it with fan and power a little bit better than what I had before, and make it easier to go and record. So, I got this great microphone. I'm just trying to put the connection even better into this computer so it sounds even better, and I hope it does, and you'll tell me about that. But like I said, if you don't want to reach me on social media, which I have all the links at WrestlingIsReal.com, there's a contact form there. Go ahead, reach out to me there. Any email works. Go ahead and reach out to me. Feel free. I'd love to hear from you. Come back for another Wrestling Is Real podcast Wednesday going into Thursday, because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling Is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at WrestlingIsReal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.